Well, our guest of the day, Harvey Goldsmith, is, of course, in charge of the Jubilee Family Festival, and we're also joined by the Conservative MP Robert Buckland, who's a member of the all-party group on the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, and from the Republican camp, we're joined by Graham Smith from Republic. Welcome to both of you. Can I just start with you? Robert, why do you think the Queen's appeal is so enduring?
Well, I think she embodies public service. You know, she made that promise to us when she was a princess years ago, and she's embodied that through her long reign. You know, the amount of work, the amount of engagements that she does, the amount of public involvement that she undertakes is extraordinary, and I think paying tribute to that in the Jubilee is very much part of this celebration.
But it hasn't been consistent, has it, in terms of support and popularity for her, not her public service? Because, of course, as we showed there at the time of Princess Diana's death, you know, there was a real slump in support for the monarchy, and particularly for the Queen. So do you think that these things just go through phases and that actually the attachment isn't that deep?
Well, I think the attachment is deep to the institution of monarchy, but I think I accept your point about popularity going through phases. I mean, if you take the long view, you know, Queen Victoria went through a very long phase of unpopularity because she withdrew from public life. But that changed, and I think, you know, taking the long view is a very important part of how the Queen views her role as monarch.
So, I mean, the enduring support is for the institution, if not necessarily for the personality or for the person at the top. Do you accept that?
I don't actually. I mean, I think that it's slightly the other way around. Is that the reason why the monarchy has survived to date is largely because we've had one monarch on the throne for 60 years, which isn't an achievement. And let's be clear, the reason why, I mean, it's simply mathematics. She was given a job for life at the age of 25 and she stayed alive, and now she's 85 or 86. So, you know, that's why she's been on the throne for 60 years.
But why do you want to get rid of it?
Well, the institution, I mean, three main reasons. You know, the hereditary principle is offensive to democratic values, and we're supposed to be a democratic society, a nation of equal citizens. The institution itself is, quite frankly, not fit for purpose. They willfully exploit their position for, you know, in terms of finances, in terms of lobbying government in secret and behind closed doors. And there are serious constitutional issues. You know, we're not a very democratic society, and our power is centred in the centre and at the top.
Well, Harvey Goldsmith, it's offensive. I mean, the institution, from a hereditary point of view, is offensive to democratic principles in this country.
I don't buy that at all. Technically, all the things you're saying may be correct, but as far as the UK is concerned, as far as the public is concerned, that sense of magic, I think, is a bit like sparkle dust at the top. We have a monarchy that, around the world, has the most incredible amount of respect. I mean, I go backwards and forwards to America. I'm off in a couple of hours to New York, and every time I go to America, I see more sense of pride of having our Queen involved than anything else. So, consequently, if the public want it and demand it, then I think this royal family have done a really good job on supporting it.
It's a myth about people around the world being fascinated with it. It's why there's
absolutely
far few.
Not a myth.
It is. I mean, there's far few monarchies around the world than there ever have been, and indeed 2 more are now on the ropes in Sweden and Spain. So, you know, this is why we're protesting on June the 3rd at the pageant. There's going to be the largest Republican protest that there's been in modern times, for the simple reason that we do take democratic values very seriously. And, you know, we're supposed to be equal citizens. And either
There's
we're all
no
equal...
such thing as equal citizens,
no, I'm sorry,
as you know.
Politically...
I mean, that's just a myth. That's as mythical as
Graham,
having a monarchy.
Well, OK, but it's a better myth than the monarchy myth.
No, it's not.
Of course it is, because the idea is that you and I both have the same political rights. It doesn't mean we have the same wealth or the same skills. It means we have the same political rights. And in this country, that's not the case.
What about the case of magic dust, as was described there? The fact that, you know, she is welcomed wherever she goes around the country. You can't put a value on that,
Well,
can
look, let's be clear about the level of support. I mean, I've been to some of these visits. The crowds are considerably smaller than they were 30 years ago. Interest in the Jubilee is considerably less than it was 35 years ago in 77. The interest in the wedding was much smaller than it was 30 years prior to that with Diana and Charles. People are not as interested, despite all the myth and the hype around the media.
You disagree that the crowds were actually smaller, or...?
Well, I don't see that at all in society. You know, you can say there may be less street parties. Well, that's all about the nature of our society and the way it's changing. That's not a reflection on the popularity of the monarchy. The Queen is immensely popular. The royal family remains an indelible part of our public life. They perform a huge ceremonial and, frankly, an emotional focus for the country. It's all about continuity. I think there's far too much, you know, it's such a colourless, drab alternative that we're being offered. And I'll give you 2 words. I mean, President Blair. I mean, is that what we want in our
what colour
country?
is
No one has ever argued for President Blair, and in fact, I've never met a single person who wants President Blair, so how he's going to win an election, I have no idea. I mean, it is not colourless and drab, it's actually quite exciting and a matter of national and civic pride to be able to elect our own president. Ireland has done it and did it very successfully last year. People are turning off and they're not as excited about the monarchy as they were before, and our emotional national focus is, quite frankly, it's sport. I mean, it's football, it's the Olympics. People are much more interested in the Olympics than they are in the Jubilee.
What, you're saying there's no emotional attachment, or there is a lack of emotional attachment?
There's some, of course. I mean, I'm not pretending that everybody's just switched off and turned away. I mean, there will be, maybe 500,000 people at the Jubilee pageant as there was at the wedding last year, but that's much smaller crowds. I mean, quite frankly, London Gay Pride gets many more people than you got at the wedding last year, so does the Notting Hill Carnival. It's not the big thing it used to be.
Well, except Harvey Gosling was expecting between 50 and 150...
That's correct. I think, as far as our planning and the work we're doing with the government with DCMS and Cabinet Office and the Royal Parts, etc., we're expecting huge crowds. One of the limitations we have, I mentioned it earlier, of course, is the state of London at the moment with all its roadworks and whatever, which is an impediment to get to these events.
But people would come anyway.
And the other thing, of course, is numbers and health and safety and so on and so forth, which physically limit. In terms of demand, the demand is as big now as it's ever been.
We've been talking to the Metropolitan Police about our protest, which is going to be down near Tower Bridge on the day, and they've been telling us, 500,000. It's the sort of figure they got last year and the sort of figure they're expecting this year. Much smaller crowds than in previous decades. Well,